Aloha, friends and family. Thought today we'd do a little bit of tracking some timelines and maybe talk more about 5D Earth. And we're tracking 3 timelines. There's 3 different timelines unfolding. Technically, you could probably say there's more than that, but we're going to get into dimensions and things. So let's just go with timelines. And we looking at the dark, we'll have the dark timeline, the light timeline, and the Eden timeline. Right, so on the dark timeline, everything's going according to plan, right? They got everybody scared. Well, they don't have everybody scared. They have their NPC. Scared, ready to take the vaccine because this thing's got a 99% survival rate, so we need a vaccine quick. More people are dying every day of XYZ than they are of COVID, but that's not even mentioned. So it's complete hypocrisy, complete insanity, complete clown world. We've got mayors putting on superhero costumes to talk about the highest murder rates in her city since the 1950s. I mean, if this stuff doesn't blow your mind, nothing will. And these NPCs are just eating it up like we all used to. Let's just face it, we were all deep asleep for a specified amount of time in this incarnation and perhaps in the subsequent incarnations. So, everybody proceeding down that timeline is right on track, headed for a dumpster fire. It's already pretty much a dumpster fire, but it's headed for an even bigger one. All right, let's look at the light timeline. The light timeline, same thing. Everything's going according to plan. Everything's in place. Hammers are about to drop. Gavels are about to slam. Shit's about to get reals. And that's where most people reside. And most people feel like, they're ready. They don't really necessarily want it, but they're ready to deal with it because it has to be dealt with, right? And then there was bliss. And then there was Eden. And there's a lot more questions surrounding this timeline than the other two, from my perspective. The other two are pretty simple and straightforward, easy to see. This one's hidden. But it's not hidden from the light workers, and it's not hidden from the people that came here to not let you forget. Even though you did forget, you're being reminded. And so maybe, I'm going to speculate a little bit of how this is going to play out because, of course, no one knows exactly how this is going to go down. But we're getting closer. We're dialing in on it. And, we know we're going to 5D. We know the Earth herself already went to 5D. So the consciousness level of the earth itself has already moved to 5D. The humans that were in tune and in resonance with her followed her, of course. Some of them are in 4D, transitioning. Some are in 5D, and ones that were already in 5D perhaps went to 6th density consciousness. Okay, so what's different? What's different for people? Here's what I'm starting to understand is that just because the earth has moved into a 5D space, and let's go back to the timeline of light, all these people are now on a 5D earth. They're not automatically in 5D consciousness, and they're not synchronized yet. So this is why, people have varying symptoms with their bodies, or with their minds, or with their emotions, with their being. Feeling unstable and maybe even being easily destabilized. Because here's another thing I realize is that, consciousness, you can't just jerk consciousness around violently. Consciousness has a very fluid, flowing, ever-present, always happening, always in the now frequency and vibration that's very, for the most part, stable. So this is one reason that you couldn't die and suddenly be in the place that they told you is heaven. That place would be resonating on a much, much higher frequency that you wouldn't be ill-equipped for. And so it wouldn't work. It would do you no good. So it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. If you're not ascending and you die, you just do a big loop and you start back over at the beginning, called reincarnation. It's very practical. The way the Creator has this whole thing going, it's all very practical. There's no there's just no craziness. There's nothing that's going to just take the consciousness for just a ride to where you couldn't integrate it and you couldn't make sense of it. In other words, everything in the spirit realm can make sense to your mind, to your avatar's mind, to the brain part of you. But you can't start there. You don't start there. You don't start in your mind and then work your way out, because your mind doesn't really know much. It just knows what it's experienced. Well, that's something, and that counts. But if you want to know how the universe works, you're going to have to tap into your spirit and your soul. And then they will teach your mind. You are your teacher. We are our teachers. All right, so let's talk about then when we're in 5D and we are synchronized. We are on that vibration, on that frequency. What happens? What happens? Well, when this shift happens, this split happens, and we're fully in 5D consciousness, you're going to be able to see and interact with all the beings, or let us just say all the reality that is in that dimension. Or you could say life, all the life that is in that dimension, all the life forms that are in that dimension. Right now, they're invisible to us. We don't vibrate high enough to see them. Some of us can interact with them somewhat, but, to really just like almost person to person, if you will. So that's what we're going to be able to do here shortly when the split happens, is we will be able, and from what I understand, or at least I think I understand, is that there's higher dimensions than the fifth, perhaps going to sixth, maybe seventh, I'm not sure, that are going to also be in resonance with 5D. And so all of those dimensions will be open. So to make it simple, everything from the fifth dimension on up to whatever it is, to wherever it goes for this shift, So you'll be able to interact with the fifth dimension, sixth dimension, seventh dimension, maybe eight, But whatever it is, it doesn't matter, even if it was just one, right? There's one dimension that we're not experiencing because of being on a lower vibration. Wouldn't we want to experience that dimension too? I sure do. It sounds really cool to me. All right, here's something else about this that's very interesting, is that we have an aspect of ourself, and I'm going to say personality maybe here, just to really define self in this context a little bit more. We have an aspect of ourself in each dimension. And when we get to the fifth dimension, you will be able to interact with the other aspects of yourself and talk. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? You'll be able to talk to yourself and yourself will talk back. Right? It sounds nutty, but this is what I'm telling you. This is coming. This is what's coming. Because there's aspects of yourself right now. We call it our higher self. We call it our spirit, some soul. These are all aspects of yourself that perhaps you're not familiar with. Perhaps you laugh and think it's stupid to think that you could talk to your own spirit and that your own spirit would talk back to you. But let us say you see your own spirit standing before you. Now are you going to laugh if it starts speaking to you? Now will you listen to yourself? Now will you hear yourself? Now will you, I'm going to use the B word, now will you believe in yourself? You've been willing to believe all these other things, but rarely have you ever believed in yourself. Not yourself disconnected from the Creator in some weird, crazy story, in some weird narrative, but yourself fully in tune, fully harmonized with your Creator, which is you, and you are it. You just have different aspects of yourself. We're multidimensional. We're going to come to really understand this, what it means, and experience it. We've been doing a lot of talking in third density. That's all we really kind of can do. It's so damn dense here, and people are so, it's like talking to stones, like people made out of, stone. sometimes, out in the world. So lighten your load. Choose your timeline. I mean, a lot of people are going to want to stay on the timeline of the old Earth, even but on the timeline of the light side of it. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people are not ready to ascend. Some people are not this far along consciously. They can't get here, or they can't get to 5D. It's just not possible for them yet. But they're going to carry on with life here, and it's going to be a much, much, much better place. After the old swamp gets drained. And then the NPCs and the lunatics and the egomaniac service to selfers, they're going to be cut off from the light. So they're all just going to cannibalize each other until there's nobody left. Because that's all they are. They're cannibals. They've been using humans, using the light, using the earth, exploiting everyone and everything, abusing everyone and everything, acting superior to everyone and everything, pushing narratives on everyone and everything. And it's not going to work anymore. So they will eat their cake, as they should. I reckon I'll leave it at that for this one. Doesn't it feel like we're on pause, though? I mean, maybe not where you're at. Where I'm at, it feels like the whole world is on pause. And all the mechanics and the mechanisms are switching into place, and the gears are beginning to turn. Those big giant gears that they turn really slowly. I think we'll be seeing some things in the sky before too long. Of course, that'll, depending on your consciousness level, they're going to say it's this, that, and the other. They're going to spin the hell out of it. They're going to try to confuse the optics and control the narrative. And it'll fool the NPCs, of course, but it's not fooling nobody else. And the NPCs and that whole, the cult is pretty small, really, compared to not just the rest of the world, but the rest of the dimensions and all who are in them. And again, there's aspects of each one of us in each one of those dimensions having its experience, and it all funnels through the layers to where you are sitting at this moment. Because this is how far or deep or expansive, we've gone. This is the farthest we've ever been. Love and light. Until next time, my beautiful friends and family.